Senior night at Duke. Daniel Ewing, one of the players to be honored for the Blue Devils tonight, in front of the usual sellout crowd at Cameron Indoor Stadium. Miami comes in with a lot of firepower, like Guillermo Diaz, and they'll need it against the number 6 team in the country. It's Throwdown Thursday with the Hurricanes of Miami taking on the Blue Devils of Duke. And Duke looks like it will finish third in the conference behind North Carolina and Wake. But look at the log jam at 7 and 8, including Miami. Now 8 and 8 is a lock for the NCAAs. The challenge is getting to 8 and 8. Good evening, everybody. Mike Patrick, Len Elmore. It's great to have you with us from the ACC. A lot of people now saying, hey, maybe 7 and 9 is not a disqualifier if that's the way you finish in the ACC. Frank Haith, the Miami coach, one of them, he may be 7 and 9 after tonight. He'd love to be 8 and 8, but he may be 7 and 9.
Well, 7 and 9 is a possibility, but it is better to be 8 and 8 because what it does, it removes the doubt. The tournament selection committee's job is a little bit easier. Now, if there are too many 7 and 9 teams, and when I count there are 5 7 and 8 teams with quality wins and decent schedule, too many 7 and 9 teams now give somebody who's left behind an argument. Well, I beat that guy, so I should go, etc. And Miami, with only 16 wins, this is their last regular season game. They need to get to 17. They need this one.
All right, let's take a look at the Star Watch line. One inside, one outside.
Well, Guillermo Diaz, for me, is a surprise star in the ACC, the most athletic player in the conference, 25 points against Duke the last time out. And Sheldon Williams, candidate for National Defensive Player of the Year, but it was his offense that gave Miami fits. 30 points against them the last time they played.
Change in the lineup for Miami. It's a coach's decision. O'Palaby, who is a true point guard, will start in place of Anthony Harris as they go with a 3-guard lineup. O'Palaby has not had a turnover in limited action in the last 3 ballgames. It's the usual lineup for Duke, with the exception of Reggie Love, a senior who gets a start. The former football player who came back to play this year broke a foot and missed a lot of action. Duke Edsel, Tony Green, and Bob Donato, the officiating crew for tonight, and we are ready to go from Cameron Indoor Stadium. Jump ball immediately on the defensive pressure by the Duke Blue Devils. There is Frank Haith, known throughout his career as an assistant, as an exceptional recruiter. He has been here before as the assistant coach at Wake Forest. His kids have not been here before.
And try as he might, he tried to let them know about the intensity in this place, about the fans and the focus of the Duke players. You just wonder if he was able to communicate that experience.
Well, there's only so much you can tell them. They've got experience the rest, isn't that right?
Absolutely. Looks like Miami's playing a boxing one with the one playing J.J. Redick. Hopefully everywhere he goes, he'll see a double team.
That's O'Palaby on him. Ewing with the shot clock down to 3, leans into a runner and got it. Excellent defense by Miami, but Duke scores nonetheless.
Well, I'll tell you what, the first couple of minutes, after a stirring ceremony before the game, senior night for Daniel Ewing, you can expect him to play on a lot of emotion. As you see again, against the pressure, ball pressure, Miami turns it over.
O'Palaby ends up with a double dribble, and there is Mike Krzyzewski in his 25th year at Duke. He has won better than 77% of his games. Just a remarkable record.
I've done so many Duke games, I'll just run out of superlatives. Run out of mention of his accomplishment.
You got a letter sweater before this one started, part of senior night. Duke with an offensive rebound. That was Reggie Love. Melchione, a really good outside shooter, missed that. The rebound goes to Robert Height, the junior from Cincinnati.
Well, in 2 possessions so far, Miami's yet to get a shot off.
Diaz is not shy. He is the number 2 scorer in the ACC. They don't get inside very much. Frisbee had that opportunity, and the landlord rejected it. This pass knocked away. Somehow Ewing got it back, leans into one. Offensive foul on Ewing. Just got in too deep. That will be 1 on Daniel Ewing.
That's a pretty good job by William Frisbee again. After not getting on the floor for the ball, Frisbee recovers nicely and takes the lane away from Ewing. And you need your big guys to take a few charges because that plants a seed in the mind of the guards. that he may block it, but he also may take the charge. A little indecision creates mistakes.
2-0 Duke, and Anthony Harris is checked into the ballgame. He's number 12. He's not shy about putting it up either, just inside the three-point line. We're tied at 2.
And that's what Miami needs. It needs someone with the capability of taking off the bounce, attacking Duke aggressively, forcing the help, and finding open men.
Len, I'm not sure what we'll see out of Miami offense tonight, but the game we had down in Miami as Redick deals to Sheldon Williams. They had very few assists. The guy who would bring it up court was the guy who ended up taking a shot.
Well, again, that's because the way Miami is constructed, you've got two guys in Height and Diaz who can really play good man-to-man ball. You see, Okpalabi gets screened off, and the penetration, that was one of the reasons Sheldon Williams was able to score so many times at such a high percentage down in Miami, because of the penetration by the Miami Duke guys.
Anthony King gives it up. Ewing nearly had the steal, knocked it away from Harris. It's out to Miami, and Duke showing good quickness on defense early. All three guards for this club, and now Okpalabi handling it again as Diaz is out for a quick rest. All three of these guards can score. Too strong. Redick skies the rebound and wants to push it. Pull up three. J.J. Redick, who statistically is number 4 in the ACC in long-range shooting, but arguably the most dangerous long-range shooter in the country.
That's right, because he knocks them down in critical situations, need situations, with more regularity than just about anybody I've seen in the nation.
Frisbee gives it up to Okpalabi, who averages less than a half a point a game. He is not going to shoot very much. Tries it this time and throws up a prayer and hits it.
Well, the thing about Okpalabi was the fact that he was under control. Even though he had the twist and gyrate, squared himself to the basket. And you're right, rarely does he take a shot, but you need to take Duke off the bounce.
He had only made 4 field goals all year, 4 out of 27 until that shot. Frisbee comes up with a loose ball, kicks it to Harris. Too strong on the three.
Well, Miami's getting his shots.
Yes, they are. Melchione for 3 out of the corner. 10 to 4. Melchione has been a huge factor for this ball club, and even becomes bigger after they lost Dockery. The injury to his leg, which will keep him out probably the rest of the year.
Wow, that was way off. Wide open shot, not even close. You think Miami's getting a little rattled by this environment?
Just a little. Melchione to a wide open Ewing. He passed on the shot. Now kicks it back out and threw it away. Was it touched by Miami? It was.
But Mike, going back to your point regarding Melchione, averaging 13 points, 5 rebounds at a career-high 16 in the last game at St. John's. And Mike Krzyzewski told us he came up big. He was the savior in that particular game.
Reach-in foul on Okpalabi. He's got a timeout. Redick helping Duke run and then getting the 3 himself. And the Blue Devils are up by 6 after 5 minutes.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Saab. Distinctively designed and independently inspired. Saab, the state of independence. And KFC's new 99-cent snacker. Now your dollar goes further at KFC.
Surfs up, but Cameron Indoor, and it's a 10-4 score. Duke on top of Miami. 15-14 to go first half. 5 ACC teams at 7 and 8, all hopeful of making the NCAA tournament. And Lenny, here's the resume for the Hurricanes.
Well, you look at obviously the quality wins, and those are ranked teams that are playing well, but the loss, the South Carolina State loss, That was the second game of the season, and it was at home. And that's why I say 8-8 is a heck of a lot better position to be in than 7-9.
DeMarcus Nelson checked into the ball game, immediately hits a shot to make it 13-4. Duke has its outside shooting shoes on as Nelson comes in averaging 6.5 points a game. He becomes more important with the loss of Sean Dockery.
Oh, absolutely. You talked about the fact that Nelson has to come up big, as Mike Krzyzewski told us. But Dockery on the bench, what you lose is intensity defensively, ball pressure, you know, a pretty good shooter, and as Mike said, a great teammate, a leader out there on the floor. He helps them with their chemistry, and DeMarcus Nelson, as a freshman, has to step into those shoes.
Redick, a mile outside. It doesn't matter. If he's hot, anything inside midcourt. 16-4.
Nothing like being at home when you can walk around in the dark and you know where all the furniture is.
Yeah, but then he can throw a cup from the edge of the bed into the entrance to the bathroom. Nelson brings it back. Redick. Nelson trying to go baseline. And an offensive foul called on Nelson, and Mike Krzyzewski beside himself on that one.
Now, again, for those at home who are saying, well, his feet were moving, you can still draw a charge. Oh. Now, that time, Height stepped into the pass.
Yes, he did.
But I assume the official interpreted it as Nelson crossing that line. The defender is allowed to move in his space as long as he's going in a straight line guarding the ball. And when the player with the ball approaches that area, it's an offensive foul. That one obviously was a mistake.
No, I don't think. Yeah, he never got to that one. Wherever that line was, he wasn't there yet.
Well, I was just trying to educate, because so many people say, well, his feet were moving. Well, you can draw a charge even if your feet are moving.
Redick off target that time, out of bounds. And this one is out to Duke. Go back to that last three for Redick.
Wow. That was out in Carborough somewhere, which is a suburb of Durham.
But didn't break down in form. It was still perfect form.
Well, you know, the St. John's game was not a masterpiece for Duke, and Mike admitted so, and he thought it was the results of playing 3 games in 5 nights, and he had a weary team. I'm sure they had a chance to rest a little bit, and you can tell by JJ's legs that he's ready to go.
That was not a foul. That was a turnover as the Miami player stepped out of bounds. The 3rd turnover for Frank Haith's team. And they are down early, big, 16-4. And when Duke gets a big lead, not necessarily this early, but later in the game, you can expect them to slow it down a lot because they want to rest their players as much as possible leading up to the ACC tournament. And Williams mugged inside. That foul on Gary Hamilton, who landed on him. That'll be one on Hamilton. It'll be interesting, I think, to watch the tournament next week. I'll talk about that in a second.
Well, you look at Sheldon Williams on the lob pass. Nice job of holding everybody off, and then he draws a few birds. A couple pigeons bit.
Next week in the tournament, it's going to be very difficult for thin teams, and Duke is thin, to play 3 games in 3 days and still have something left for the NCAA. I mean, you're really going to have to pace yourself if you're Mike Krzyzewski.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's been doing it all year because we know that he's suffered injuries to a number of scholarship players. But that's going to be the biggest challenge, particularly if the first couple of games are close games and he needs those guys on the floor.
Yeah. Well, right now, he is having no problem whatsoever. Sean Dockery will not be available for the ACC tournament, will not be available for the NCAA. He's missed only 2. Perhaps an outside shot he could come back if they get deep into the tournament. Reggie Love missed 12 with a broken bone in his foot. McClure was out 7 with a bad knee. Shavlik Randolph missed 4 full games with mononucleosis, but was affected in several others. So the 4 is really a misnomer. They were very hopeful of getting back to full strength, and then the knee injury to Dockery, who was, you feel bad for the young man because he obviously worked so hard to make himself a better player over the summer, and did. He's a much better player than he was.
Well, tremendous improvement, particularly with his 3-point field goal accuracy. his free throw shooting. And again, as a ball handler and leader out there on the floor, Mike Krzyzewski really didn't hesitate to give Daniel Ewing a little bit of rest and let Dockery run the show. But now, you know, the guy who's going to be asked to do that would be DeMarcus Nelson, a freshman. And this is his first ACC tournament upcoming. We don't know how it's going to react.
It's not going to be easy, and it may mean more minutes for Ewing, and that's going to be tough on him. Nelson looking inside, tried to force it to Randolph. Good defense that time by Miami. Like to get Diaz untracked here. He's open for three. Diaz, a streak shooter, missed that. Hamilton rebound, tipped away. Diaz trying to go baseline and walked. Illinois, the only undefeated team left in Division I, 28-0, the best start ever. The last home game tonight on ESPN2. Gene Cady and his Purdue Boilermakers draw the short straw. Cady in his last year going out with maybe his least successful ball club of his career.
And that's obviously got to be bittersweet for Illinois coach Bruce Weber, who was a long-time Cady assistant. But, you know, they've got to play that game, and they've got to win that game to go undefeated in the regular season. So I say bittersweet, but you can bet Bruce Weber's team is looking to deliver a knockout punch early.
And you know Gene will not go quietly. Shavlik Randolph with a rebound and then lost it out of bounds. 11:37 to go in the first half. Duke in control against Miami. All right, Reese, thanks very much. And we have a semi-blowout going here with Duke leading Miami early, 19-6. Duke just dominating every aspect of this game, Lenny.
Well, particularly on the glass. I mean, Miami is 0 for 9 from the field, but they're the leading offensive rebounding team in the ACC, and they get 15 offensive rebounds, approximately 15 points. And they've got 0 offensive rebounds despite missing 9 shots. So an excellent job on the glass by Duke.
A lot of one-on-one play. That's the 5th turnover for the Canes.
And that's the danger in trying to go one-on-one too often against Duke. You know, but that's Miami's style. That's why they're last in assists.
Randolph lost that one, picked off by Hamilton. Height comes back the other way, gives it up to Diaz, who has been a non-factor so far. Got by Love that time, tries to hit a runner. There's an offensive rebound and the follow by Frisbee.
There's a score.
Both rarities. Frank Hayes knew this would not be easy. He lost his leading scorer from a year ago to graduation as Reddick buries another three. He lost a couple of players because of the coaching change. He lost his best recruit because of the coaching change. But he didn't come there for a quick fix. He's got a great institution. He thinks he has a great product to sell. He has been at Wake Forest, where he was a success as an assistant. He has been at Texas, where he was a great success as an assistant. And he is convinced that he can do the same as the head man at Miami. He's got a nice facility, too.
Well, absolutely. And one thing you know about Frank Hayes is that he can recruit. You know, he's done a terrific job at the schools you mentioned. And now, you know, at a school like Miami with the facilities they have, he shouldn't have any problem getting players.
His problem right now is trying to contain J.J. Reddick, who already has 11 points in the first 10 minutes. That time they got good position inside with Frisbee, but he couldn't make the shot against Williams.
But they need to go back to that, but it's at least giving him some rhythm offensively.
Now Williams will try to return the favor. Forced it up, couldn't get it. Randolph offensive rebound. His follow won't go, and there's Harris to clear.
You know, Miami's biggest problem is that Duke's pressure is really taking them out of any offensive rhythm. They're in a secondary break situation. They find an open shot. And when you find open shots, you can't be afraid to take them.
And Harris didn't rush it, shot it in rhythm, and made it 24-11. So Reddick has equaled Miami's offensive output so far. Reddick behind the screen. Foul behind the line. That will be a 3-shot foul. You just can't do that, especially with Reddick. You might as well not even force him to go to the free throw line. Just give him the 3.
Well, and he tried to block it from the side. Really not really a block. Just put a hand in his face. But you see, J.J. Reddick has this thing. He kicks his legs out, as a lot of three-point shooters do. And as a defender goes by, he can't help but make contact. It's like the punter trying to draw contact in that situation. If you're close and you don't get any of the ball, you're going to wind up making contact.
Reddick, the best free throw shooter for his career in the history of the NCAA. That one actually hit the rim and had to dribble in, which is unusual for him. Coming to the line before those two, he was 156 of 167 this year. Are you kidding? It just has a remarkable stroke. It is the same routine every time and virtually the same result every time. But he is second in the ACC to Chris McCray of Maryland, who is having a brilliant year from the line. Diaz, who can really get up, skies in the lane and scores there.
And that's what Guillermo Diaz has to realize, that if he can take off the bounce, just get in the mid-range, 1 or 2 dribbles in that paint, he can elevate over everyone, and he has open shots.
Tremendous vertical leap. 6 points now from Melchioni, who hits another long-range bomb. Wide open is Hamilton. Maybe not the shot they wanted from the 6'10" center. Offensive rebound to Frisbee. Hamilton comes out, sets a screen. Diaz, tough shot, will draw the foul.
And again, now they're trying to establish a little inside out. You saw Miami go to Frisbee a couple times. Now outside, you've got some openings for Diaz. You develop a continuity with that. Try to look inside out and maybe get yourself some offensive rhythm. Because right now, Miami just looks lost. And a lot of it has to do with the Duke shots.
And doesn't it always have to do with the Duke defense? Even if they're not stealing balls and getting wide open layups, which they did for so many years, this team is not going to do a lot of that. But they play such solid defense, and they force you most of the time out of the rhythm that you want to play.
Absolutely, particularly on the passing lanes. You know, a lot of teams like to start their offense by hitting one of the wings, and Duke will take that away from you and force you to go to plan B. And a lot of teams just aren't ready for plan B.
A little zone press. Duke has hit 6 out of 10 from long range so far to build a 16-point lead. Ewing with a tough shot.
And that time Miami went back to man-to-man. They had seen enough of that boxing one against J.J. Reddick that wasn't really working. That looked like a little carry right there. See, out of control. No offensive rhythm whatsoever. Highlight stuff right here. Nope.
Diaz back the other way. Offensive foul. Melchioni may have gotten away with a little flop that time.
Yeah, he was falling before contact was made.
Yeah. I don't think Diaz is quite that strong. Thanks very much. It's a 30-14 game here with Duke on top. Let's go back to that last charging call. Sometimes the official's in the wrong spot to call it, Lenny.
Yeah, Lee Melchioni's got a job in sales or acting, but right there, he started falling way before Diaz even got to him. And, you know, whatever he was selling, the official bought it.
Listen, for you old-timers, Sonny Liston gave up more effort to go down in Lewiston against Muhammad Ali than that one. That was the phantom charge. Reddick, the ACC's leading scorer, already has 16 and is just hot as a pistol. Well, Paul will be back in, being guarded Sometimes you're doing so many things just to get away from defensive pressure that you just lose track like you did there.
Well, Apolloby didn't have any outlets. As I mentioned before, Duke overplays the wings. When they cross, they switch. So there's always somebody there trying to take away that pass.
Williams gets it deep, maneuver for position. Excellent defense by Anthony King, who just wouldn't let him get out from under the basket support.
Well, Sheldon Williams leads the ACC in blocks, but Anthony King is number 2. So he's making a little bit of a statement there, even if his team isn't.
Diaz gives it up to Apolloby. 6:39 and counting first half. 32-14. Apolloby may have gotten away with a little push-off and hits the jumper. He has 4.
Well, when you take away the wings, that's one way to create some opportunities. Down the middle, there's no help. And Apolloby really just had a one-on-one situation that he took advantage of. You do that enough times, you force Duke to make an adjustment, and then you can start your offense a little better.
Williams wheels into the lane, and Williams is tied up with Frisbee. And look at this. 2 big guys not about to give in to the other. And the officials do a really nice job of stepping in.
Well, you take a look right there. Williams just bogarts his way down on the blocks. Does a nice job splitting the D, and then they get their arms tangled up. And that's just a mind game right there. Williams Frisbee says, if I can't stop you physically, I'm gonna play with your head.
We're at Cameron Indoor with 6:07 to go in the first half, and Duke on top of Miami 34-16. J.J. Redick 5 out of 6 from the floor and just tearing it up for the Blue Devils. He is the ACC's leading scorer, 22.5 points a game. He will win the scoring championship. A lot of Duke players have done that. Sheldon Williams is going to win the rebounding title in the ACC. Only 2 other Duke players have ever done that. So a little history for this year's edition of the Duke Blue Devils.
Well, I will say this again, is Sheldon Williams averaging that double-double. Probably played some of the finest pivot basketball in the country today. There was a period of time in January where he might have been the absolute best postman in America.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you got guys like Wayne Simeon who's come on, a couple of other guys that come on to really challenge, but you look at those numbers right there, and it just tells the story. Tremendous improvement from last year. And one of the things is he's been able to pick up the defensive intensity without increasing his fouls. Last year, foul prone. This year, pretty much stayed out of foul trouble.
Yeah, this year, very rarely has he had a problem with fouls at all. And that's been a major difference because there is nobody, literally, to come in and play that pivot. I mean, Shadwick Randolph is not a center, even though he will play there. Here's the double team. They finally get rid of it to Harris. Wilkins, tough shot, rims out. Redick had the rebound, knocked out of his hands, out to Duke. Tomorrow night, ESPN will have an NBA doubleheader for you. It all starts at 7:30 Eastern with the Kia NBA shoot-around. Then at 8, Shaq, Dwayne Wade, and Miami look to heat up the season series with the Sacramento Kings. 10:30 Eastern, the Mavericks and the Lakers. NBA Friday, coast to coast.
Duke just getting the ball much too deep on the block. If it's not Sheldon Williams, that time Reggie Love, as his teammates, DeMarcus Nelson, as his teammates really look on the blocks for both of those guys.
Nelson at 6'3" was the leading scorer in California prep history, but he was also the number 3 rebounder ever to play high school in California at 6'3".
Well, look at the upper body strength right there, along with the explosiveness and kind of a fearlessness in getting in the paint, even at 6'3". And right now he's the second leading freshman rebounder in the ACC as well. So
37-18, Duke on top with 5 minutes to go. First half. King kicks it back outside to Harris. Harris sweeps around Randolph but missed the shot. And this one is off of King, out of bounds to Duke. Bob Donato making the call, almost prone. And Frank Haith wants to know what's going on at the other end.
Well, Frank told us before, again, that he tried to communicate to his guys what to expect here, and a lot of times you're not going to get, you know, some of the borderline calls go your way, which is the case in the ACC at home for everybody. The home team sometimes gets an advantage, but at the end of the day, this team has to learn to play through this. And right now it seems as though with each mounting minute, the Duke pressure, this team just loses its focus on the offensive end.
And what an intimidating place to come to. Randolph misses the jump shot. King with a rebound. Miami needs a couple of baskets here to cut into this lead before we go to the locker room at the half.
Well, Guillermo Diaz on the bench. That's their leading scorer. Robert Height had gotten away a little bit to get an open shot. And they're looking to try to curl him again, but you got to have patience. You got to wait for Height. We saw them pass the ball away from him as he broke free.
Anthony King dribbling against Williams, who goes out to pick him up. They get it to Frisbee. A jump hook short. And Williams clears another rebound. Williams and Frisbee really going after each other right now.
Well, there's no back down in William Frisbee. I mean, this is a young man, again, that has been a tremendous offensive rebounder, 5th in the conference. You know, that's his job, to be physical, to play with intensity inside.
He's a senior out of Bayshore, New York. Jump shot won't go. In fact, after a recent game, he proposed to his fiancée on the court. She said yes.
And see, that's what Robert Height needs to do. He needs to look to put the ball on the floor. He's another guy that's got a 39-inch vertical. Put it on the floor, get to an open spot, and elevate. That shot is yours. All you have to do is be able to make it.
37-20. Randolph starts down the lane and fouled. Got a timeout with 2:50 to go. First half from Durham. 37-20 Duke.
Davis and Doug Gottlieb coming up on the UPS halftime report. There's a log jam in the middle of the ACC. We'll examine that bubble and deliver Thursday's throwdowns. Miami's one of those teams on that ACC bubble.
Yeah, and you know, the last 2 nights we've seen Indiana and Texas A&M, both in must-win games on the road. They performed much better than Miami has so far tonight.
All right, guys, 37-20, 2:50 to go here. First half, Shaver with Randolph makes it an 18-point lead. And here's what Doug was talking about. 5 teams at 7-8. One of them is guaranteed to be at 8-8 because 2 will play. That would be, let's see, Maryland, Virginia Tech. So one of those teams has to finish 8-8.
Right. And I think, again, that's going to be the cutoff line. I mean, you're looking for easy ways to make decisions on teams that are lumped together. That might be the cutoff line for the tournament selection committee. Miami, you know, I know what Doug said, that Miami not performing well tonight, but that's also because they're in Cameron against a Duke team that is better than people think. But they're still just out of rhythm right now offensively. Duke doing a terrific job keeping them off the glass. That's why they get a number of their points, 15 a game off of offensive rebound. And rare has it been for them to get offensive rebound tonight.
Reddick fouled by Harris on the way in. Now the Miami's normal starting guards, this trio, Diaz, Height, and Harris, provide 67% of this club's scoring. That's the most in the ACC. Tonight, it hasn't been the case. Diaz been limited to 3. Height has half a dozen, and Harris has 5. Now, that's 14 out of the 20, so it's still the same percentage, but it's only 14 points in the first half. And if those are the 3 guys you look to score, and they only have 14, you're obviously in trouble.
Absolutely. And again, you go back to the Duke defense. You know, you're not going to solely be able to play one-on-one against them. You've got to be able to beat people off the bounce, but you got to draw defenders and kick. And Miami is not really equipped to do that. They've got supreme one-on-one players who aren't as accustomed to making the play.
Right. Reddick putting up sensational numbers again. He has 18 points. Diaz trying to force it the way he has a lot of this first half, and he turns it over again.
See, that was a perfect example. Going one-on-one, drawing a defender, and instead of finding his man, He's looking to the basket. You got to keep this defense honest. If you're going to take them off the bounce, you draw the help, and then you got to kick to somebody that's wide open. Keep the D honest.
And you watch what happens with the rest of the Miami offense. You get one guy starting to dribble the basketball, and the other four guys stand there and watch because they know it's going to be a shot and not a pass. Duke fighting for that ball, and Ewing. Great pass by J.J. Redick, who had the open shot. Instead had a man that was more open and found it. Now Diaz quickly back the other way, can't hit it. King, offensive rebound. He missed. Miami had a shot at that rebound. Robert Height had it but couldn't hold it.
And Frank Hayes has to be more than concerned. He was concerned for most of this game. He's got to be more than concerned right now. Because, again, even the strengths of Miami, offensive rebounding, they're just not capable of coming up with the ball.
Ewing. Not going to hit this shot.
That's one of the better Miami sequences on defense.
Diaz, just beautiful job of sprinting the court and then makes the reverse layup off the pass from Harris.
He hasn't been very good this game, but when he's good, he is spectacular. That's right. As I mentioned at the beginning of the telecast, the most athletic guy in the ACC in all probabilities. You see a good defensive sequence, and there's Diaz again with the ability to elevate and remain in the air.
Well, let's take a look at your first team All-ACC, and I think the only surprise on here for some people would be that you have Diaz on there out of Miami. But you can't argue with his numbers, Len.
No, you can't. I mean, he's the second leading scorer in the ACC, and if you look at a comparison, particularly in conference games, he's averaging 21 points, 4 rebounds in conference games, shooting about 46%, 40% from beyond the arc. That compares very favorably with guys like J.J. Redick, Jarrett Jack, John Gilchrist, Chris Paul. I mean, probably more favorably than everyone except Redick in the points per game category.
Well, as I've said for the last couple of weeks, I absolutely refuse to pick an ACC team this year. I think there are 12 guys that should make the first team. I'm not doing it. I think Jawad Williams belongs on that first team. And I think he is an unbelievably great player.
And he very well could be. I mean, he's on a team that has so many stars. Right. Everybody pops up, but he does a lot of little things that help make that Tar Heel team better. Somebody just put a gun to my head and said, I got to pick 5. So what do you want me to do, Mike?
Let him pull the trigger. I mean, your money or your life, the old Jack Benning line. I'm thinking about it. 44-22 under a minute to go. Just constant defensive pressure by Duke.
And again, trying to take away the passing. Look how far out they force the beginning of the offense where Diaz has to start. That's a tremendous advantage for the defense.
And look at the way he forced that. Diaz did not have a shot, and yet he was going to put it up from 17 feet. And now it is really getting emotional.
Well, it is. When you're getting spanked like this, an opponent gets really upset. You take a look how far Diaz starts. Here comes the hedge by Randolph, and he's forced out even further. Now you got a double team with Nelson helping. Quick hands inside. Imagine having to face that 40 minutes a game in a situation like that's what wears teams down.
And Diaz was nailed by his own man. Hamilton came over the top, the 250-pound center. There's the double team on Diaz. Harris was open. He lost it to Nelson. DeMarcus Nelson, that rims out. Reggie Love with a follow. That's blocked by Hamilton. There's the follow and blocked again. And Miami doing everything it can to keep Duke off the board. There's Height with a spinning move. He's going to try to score, and he's fouled.
Well, down 22, there aren't an awful lot of moral victories. But again, the hustle right here, just a little bit to get a hand on Nelson. And then the blocks come fast and furious right here. Miami averages 5 blocks a game, but tremendous job defensively. And then they come down and they get an opportunity at the basket.
Height, another terrific scorer. He's 4th in the ACC, and he's a 87% free throw shooter, has 7 points tonight.
Well, that's more than he had the last time they played Duke. 2 for 7 from the field, and he was pretty much held in check in that game.
44-24 with 7 seconds to go. Ewing. That'll be the first half. It was all J.J. Redick in the first half. He nearly scored as many points as the Miami Hurricanes did. 44-24 Duke. Let's join Reese Davis in the studio for the UPS halftime report.
All right, Mike.
We're at Duke at the half, and it's Blue Devils 44, Miami 24. Welcome back to Cameron Indoor Stadium, everybody. Mike Patrick, Glenn Elmore, our entire ESPN crew. If you're Duke, this is what you hope for. If you're Miami, this is what you were afraid of.
Absolutely, and it's the Duke defense that really set the tone. You know, they forced 12 turnovers, 6 of them steals in the open floor. Duke able to convert 14 points off of turnovers. They've done a tremendous job there. But on the offense, Miami still is yet to find an answer for J.J. Redick. And I guess out there with that kind of range, there is no answer, as Redick just started feeling it.
The NCAA Women's Basketball Championship on ESPN begins March 19th.
You think color, we think ink. You think how to grow your business, we think how to supply it. We're Office Depot, and we're offering a compact Presario PC featuring the Intel Pentium 4 processor with HT technology and 17-inch LCD monitor for just $849.99 after rebates until March 12th. You take care of business, we take care of you. Office Depot. Taking care of business.
To the list of the most extraordinary images ever captured, we humbly submit.
Tight with a miss, Williams with another rebound.
Tight a little frustrated. That time he thought he got hit on the arm. But that's the kind of play. If you're going to play one-on-one, that's the kind of play. You got to maximize your athleticism, and Height dribbling to the spot, elevating, and just couldn't get the ball to the basket.
Look at the spacing that Duke has on the floor. They just spread it so beautifully and get guys open. Redick misses a shot, but he will draw the foul.
Mike, that's a great point, and that's about discipline. You know, that's about everybody being on the same page, recognizing when it's their turn, they'll get the ball. The reason why you don't have good spacing in many instances, because guys get antsy. They want to touch the ball. They start cheating a little bit in, and it makes it easier on the defense.
And we're sorry for the technical problem we had there for a couple of minutes. Glad you're all back with us, where Duke is now leading 45-24. J.J. Redick, 6 out of 6 from the free throw line, 19 points. He averages 22 and a half, the leader in the Atlantic Coast Conference, and he is perfect, as he usually is, from the free throw line again tonight. 46-24.
But technical difficulties, they missed all that good stuff?
Just the parts that you said. See if Diaz can get on track here in the second half. Boy, Ewing really did a good job. Didn't buy the fake at all. He ends up picking up the foul. But that's frustrating when you're an offensive player like Diaz, who averages 18.5 points a game. Now, you give him your best head and body fake, and he's still in your face. Height. Boy, his shot has really been off.
It certainly has. It's either been too short or too long. And again, to me, I find that strange with a guy with that type of elevation who can jump over the defenses to miss that bad.
Redick with a miss. Williams with a follow.
That time, Sheldon Williams just fought and fought to get good position to screen his man off the glass.
Duke has doubled Miami at 48-24. Diaz lost it on the way in, saved by King.
I mean, they can't even hit point-blank shots right now. And that's, a lot of that has to do with anxiety. They start feeling like you got to get it all back in one shot. Relax a little bit. Just whittle down the lead when you have the opportunity.
Yeah, they have had so few chances against the Duke defense, and then when they get it, it's got to be frustrating for Frank Haight. They do get the chances, and they can't convert. Right now, look at the job he has done. Everybody thought Miami would be such a weak system coming into the ACC, joining the big boys. Same with Virginia Tech. You know, it was going to be a couple of free passes for teams all around the league as Reddick is wide open for three and missed it. Williams with another offensive rebound. But it has not been a free pass for anybody playing the Canes or Virginia Tech.
Well, certainly not. And again, if you look at Miami last year in the Big East, they only had 4 conference wins, 4-12. And that's the reason why everyone thought they would be the doormat this year. But it looks like, at least the way this game is going, they're going to wind up 7-9 in the conference, and that's not too shabby for their first year.
Especially in a conference where back in November, 5 teams were in the top 9, and 7 were in the top 19 in the country. And you come in and join that, you expect to get whacked a lot, and they have not. They have played very, very well and can hold their head high.
Well, the teams that are below them in the standings, they haven't lost to any of them.
That's right.
Essentially, they beat the teams they're supposed to beat based upon the standing. And they've taken their lumps against Duke and others.
And here's what teams have done in their first year in the league. Georgia Tech, of course, had maybe the worst major college basketball program you ever saw when it came into the ACC to start. Florida State had some outstanding players on that team when they entered the ACC. In fact, they were 11-5, and their first win was at North Carolina. Not a bad start. 54-24. Duke is just overwhelming Miami, and in the second half, Miami has yet to hit a field goal. Duke shooting 50% so far.
And except for Robert Height's 18-footer, those shots, those 5 attempts in this half have all been pretty much right in the paint.
Yeah.
And they've rimmed the basket, they've come up short.
Height having a tough time getting it in, finally does to Frisbee. Diaz looking for a screen. Second leading scorer in the ACC has been frustrated by Duke's defense tonight. Height is left alone, got away from Reggie Love. Can't hit the shot, but it's out to Miami. You know, you talk about coaching. This has got to be one of the best jobs Mike Krzyzewski has ever done, Len. I mean, he came into the season with a very, very thin team, and throughout the season, he has lost one key player after another to injury or illness. He's going to go into the ACC tournament in Washington without Sean Dockery, and somehow he has still made it work. Number 6 and has another brilliant record.
Well, he's been a juggler this year, no question about it. Has to change lineups, not so much his starting 5 and score group, but to shuttle guys in and out, put them in positions where they can be successful. And you got to give up big props to that big 3, Reddick, Ewing, and Williams, for their consistency. That's what allows Mike Krzyzewski to be able to bring guys in and out.
And they have played so many minutes, that big 3. And here's Sheldon Williams called for a foul inside. And Mike Krzyzewski retrieves the basketball and is a little slow to give it back so he can make his opinion known. State, ESPNU, be there from the beginning.
Boy, that's going to be a great opportunity going forward to check out championships and coverage for an awful lot of other sports, not just the major sports.
Yep.
Talking about baseball, softball, wrestling, volleyball. I can't wait.
Here's a reach-in steal. Ewing ahead of the pack. Just called a technical on Daniel Ewing for hanging on to the rim. Holy cow.
Well, terrific anticipation by Daniel Ewing. whose defense all year has been underrated. There's the flush, and looked like his momentum would have carried him into the fourth row had he not held on.
I'm just anticipating that the reason he did it was for his own protection. There wasn't anybody under him, but he's going so fast, if he doesn't hang on to the rim, he's got a chance to hurt himself.
But to the official's defense, at least from his angle, there was no other player underneath.
Could have looked that way.
At least in his mind, there was no real danger presented. You take a look right here, nobody around him.
I mean, Ewing is not that kind of player.
No, he's not, and you can see the way his legs were flying out. Had he not done that, his momentum would have carried him into somebody's lap.
66-27 as the crowd chants Ewing's name, and this basket is going to be waved off. Is that a charge? Offensive foul.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I don't like that either. Even Mike Krzyzewski is saying, what? You know, let him have it.
Yeah, that may have been a makeup.
But you don't need that. You don't need that here. Not now. 29-point lead.
No, it's 56-27 with 14:50 to go in the ball game. Duke on its way to win number 22. Redick wide open, maybe too wide open. Williams with a follow. That basket is going to count and a foul as well.
Well, that was total brain lock right there. After the foul was called, the shot was still on the rim. Against this 2-3 zone, Sheldon Williams just getting any type of position he wants. And what is Frisbee thinking?
I don't know. Diaz commits the foul, and Frisbee just goes up and knocks it away. So he's guilty of goaltending. Diaz gets his 13th foul. Williams with his 9th rebound. Hits the free throw and has 10 points. So on his way to another double-double, it will be his 16th of the year and the 34th of his brilliant career. And there is a three from Diaz. Finally get that young man free, and he shot that one in rhythm.
And he hasn't had his best game tonight, obviously, but the thing that supports my position, he should be on the All-ACC team, is he averages 24 points and 5 rebounds, 50% from the field against ranked teams. In the 18 games that they've played against ranked teams, those are his numbers. So Guillermo Diaz does save his best for the best. Tonight is not one of those nights as Duke really put the clamps on him.
And Robert Height just committed a holding foul on that rebound, so Duke gets the ball back. DeMarcus Nelson into Ewing for three, too strong. Nelson got the rebound. There's Redick.
And I'd much rather see J.J. Redick put it on the floor and penetrate than to shoot a wide-open three. But even then, Redick's effective in drawing the defense in distance.
And DeMarcus Nelson hits a shot. He has 7. Redick has turned himself into a complete player. Diaz blocked by Sheldon Williams. 3-on-1 break. Run to perfection by Daniel Ewing. And a standing ovation for the Blue Devils on senior night. The number 6 team in the country is ripping Miami. Duke on top 64-30 over Miami, and one thing that has characterized Duke throughout the years is unselfishness and great passing.
Well, it's bad enough that they're shooting so well, and guys like J.J. Redick really getting off. Look at the attention he draws. They don't want him to get to the basket, and he's got the ability out of that triple team to find somebody on penetration. Then it's a second pass, which is always the case when you catch a team in rotation defensively. The second pass will find the open shooter. But Redick obviously able to create more than just shots for himself.
13:26 to go in the game. Duke again doubling Miami at 64-32. Duke on a 20-6 spurt to start this half. They started the game with a 19-6 burst.
Well, here, particularly in Cameron, that's Groundhog's Day, man. Every time a team comes in, it's that beginning of the second half burst.
And Diaz, again, too much one-on-one, draws the offensive foul, and that is 4 on Guillermo Diaz.
And see, this is the part of the game. We just showed J.J. Redick's ability to draw defenders and kick and make people better. That's the element of Guillermo Diaz's game that he needs to work on between now and next season. He's got the other skills.
Shavlik Randolph, one of the best at drawing offensive fouls. There's always been a couple of guys on this team under Mike Krzyzewski who are outstanding at forcing the other team into mistakes. Randolph reaches in, makes a steal, but can only save it to King. King gets it outside, and Harris will knock it down.
Boy,
Anthony Harris, who's the 31% long-range shooter.
I'm sorry, Mike. I was going to say Duke has been so outstanding in stripping the ball today. I can't tell you how many times they've gotten a finger on it or a hand on it, really throwing Miami off rhythm offensively.
Redick, another deep three. Williams rebounds, fight for the ball, and he and Height are tied up. And the possession arrow will give the ball back to Miami. Reggie Love will come in for Duke. Frisbee will come in for the Hurricanes.
And if there's one thing that Frank Hayes is going to take with him as he leaves, is that you cannot zone Duke with Sheldon Williams in that paint, able to roam around and get rebounds at will. And that's why he's been able to get in front of people, root himself in front of the basket, and get second shot opportunity after second shot opportunity for his team, which they've done pretty much on the second half.
Diaz remains on the floor with those 4 fouls. He is their shooter. He is their best offensive weapon. Here's an offensive rebound, and Miami leads the ACC in that category. Height had a wide-open shot, gets it to Diaz. He misses a wide-open 3. You were talking at the beginning of the game about Miami's defense. It appeared they went with a box and 1 and started trying to shut down J.J. Redick. I thought that was an outstanding way to go, but Redick just burned him to a crisp.
Well, he burned him, and then what happened, they started to get turnovers and really converting those turnovers. And the deficit really prevented Frank Hayes from further exploring that box and 1. He had to go to some man, had to go to some pressure, try to find some combination that was going to get his team some easy opportunities or generate some offense.
Diaz, nice offensive move, couldn't hit it, but there's the follow. Good basket by Gary Hamilton, the big guy out of L.A. He has half a dozen. Duke has had it its way from the very beginning. Frisbee playing defense against Shavlik Randolph. Follow is blocked by Hamilton and taken away by Hamilton against DeMarcus Nelson. Harris goes to the left hand. Nice move down the left side of the lane.
Well, it's a little different right now for penetration without Sheldon Williams, the leading shot blocker in the conference, in the paint underneath. I think Mike Krzyzewski wants to talk about it. And Mike wants to talk about stuff going forward. He's looking for execution, knowing that the guys on the floor right now, the support guys, Melchione, Nelson, Randolph, they're going to be counted on, particularly in the ACC tournament.
And we haven't seen David McClure tonight. They're going to need David McClure as well. And there's McClure.
Ask and you shall receive, Mike.
Young man out of Ridgefield, Connecticut, who missed 7 with an injury to his knee. Here's Redick and what he has done in constant motion, trying to get those openings. And now, you know, J.J. has played so many minutes this year, and it looks like he might be wearing down a little bit right here.
Can you imagine 11 games he's played this year, 40 minutes? I mean, he has been a workhorse.
And, you know, they try to rest him sometimes on defense, but the other coaches see that, and immediately they're going to make him work.
I mean, 8 games, 30 minutes. He and Ewing together have played 11 games of 30 minutes.
Yeah,
that's still a lot. 40 minutes. I'll get it straight.
30's okay. Height with a runner. 64-41. The crowd trying to pump up the Blue Devils here. And this is going to be a foul on Antoine Mahan, the freshman who checks in. He's on Reddick, picks up his first, and we've got a timeout. Well, you can always recognize Charlotte with those uniforms, can't you? And instantaneously, you know who you're looking at.
I think they glow in the dark, too.
Yeah. Well, Duke's shooting is glowing in the dark tonight, 64-41, as they are ripping with Miami as we approach the 9.5-minute mark here in Durham on senior night. Duke, even with this lead, they haven't scored in nearly 4 minutes.
And, you know, constantly working. You take a look at Daniel Ewing right now. This is the last time he's going to play on this court. Tremendous career.
He and Reggie Love. Ewing behind the back. Good pass. Melchioni for three.
And again, the rebounding against that zone. They just keep pushing the backline defenders further and further under the basket.
Melchioni for a three again. And guess who got the rebound? DeMarcus Nelson at 6'3", right in the middle of that defense. The kid is tough.
Speaking of tough, it seems that Height is now found, albeit a little bit too late, has found the combination.
Robert Height has 13 points. Melchioni a little bit out of control, and he will pick up a foul. Sunday, ABC has an NBA doubleheader for you. Our coverage starts on Sunday at 12:30 Eastern. The GMC NBA Game Time. Then at 1 Eastern, Dirk Nowitzki leads the Mavericks against Yao Ming and the Rockets. At 3:30 Eastern, the world champion Pistons will play the Kings in Game 2 of an NBA on ABC doubleheader. Air ball that time from Height.
He's getting the shots, though. I mean, there was a time in the first game that these two teams played down in Miami, and for large chunks of this one, he wasn't even able to get good looks. And speaking of good looks, you know, we talked about how much J.J. Redick plays per game. You know, he averages almost 39 minutes a game. And at this point, I'm sure it's his decision to be out there. I'm sure Mike Krzyzewski would rather rest him for periods of time, keep him fresh.
Well, he lost 20 pounds in the offseason anticipating that he would play a lot more minutes, and he did not want to be in a position where he was going to get tired going down the stretch. The other thing that Duke has done all year is that they don't practice these guys as hard because they know they're going to be in a situation where they use up so much energy during the game. Ewing for three. Boy, their three-point shooting has been outstanding tonight. Ewing with a dozen, and it's 70-43.
You know, Ewing just came off a bit of a breather on the bench and got his legs back. And I know he wants to be in this game, as I mentioned before. The last one he'll ever play here at Cameron Indoor. Leave a good taste in his mouth.
There is Height, and he will draw a charge.
And against the zone, just not quick enough to cover the corners. And Ewing just wide open.
The problem with the one-on-one moves of the Miami Hurricane guards is they picked up about 5 offensive fouls tonight.
And the inability of them to draw the defenders and then kick it. That's been the key, and that's something that they certainly need to work on. A guy like Anthony Harris, who's a sophomore, he's got time. Guillermo Diaz, a sophomore, he's got time as well.
Got a timeout with 7:56 to go from Duke.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Beck's Beer, who reminds you that life beckons and you're holding the key. And Avis, we try harder.
Miami trailing Duke 70-43. Senior night for the Blue Devils, and Daniel Ewing and Reggie Love serving as the seniors. Ewing with 7 assists there. His parents had a brilliant career under Mike Krzyzewski, number 5 all-time shooting threes. He has assumed the leadership role this year out of Missouri City, Texas. 55-2 while he's been at school at Cameron Indoor, and is in the top 25 all-time as a scorer with the Duke Blue Devils. And Mike Krzyzewski gets very emotional on senior night. Gets so close to these kids.
And the thing about seeing a development over 4 years, they come in as boys and you hope they leave as men.
Yeah.
And to have a part in their development, a young man like Reggie Love as well, who's overcome a couple of obstacles, played 2 sports here.
And I think Reggie Love is an important part of this team going forward in the ACC tournament and the NCAA tournament, because he gives them that football toughness.
That's right. Plays good, strong defense, doesn't give up ground. You don't expect him to score, but you expect him to tighten some people up on the defensive end.
Nice move by it. It's a good way to put it. Diaz, nice move, gets into the lane. Diaz has a dozen for the ACC's second leading scorer behind Daniel Ewing, or behind J.J. Redick, who's 3 there, and buries another one. J.J. Redick with 26. He has shot the ball brilliantly tonight. It's at 50% from long range. He had one from about 35. Diaz goes to the left hand, can't hit it. Williams with another rebound, and another double-double for the landlord. That was his 12th board. Ewing short on a jump shot. And here comes Mahan.
Well, if I'm Frank Haith, you know, I'm talking to my team in the huddles and say, okay, this is for the next game. This is the last game Miami will play. Their season is complete. This is the last game they play until you get to the ACC tournament. Now's the time to start looking for execution. Now's the time to start looking for guys to build confidence, so that when they take that week off and they prepare, you know, they finish this thing with better memories. You know, you don't want to continually get blown out. You want to have some good spurts right here, some good things to point out when you take a look at the tape.
All right, and here is the problem for the ACC teams below the Big Three. You've got 5 teams at 7 and 8. Obviously, Miami, barring some kind of a major miracle or a lightning strike here, is going to finish at 7 and 9 during the regular season. Only one of those teams is guaranteed that they are going to get an 8 and 8. That's because they play each other. The others could conceivably finish at 7 and 9. Then you'd have a major problem with the committee. The other question I want to ask you about the selection committee is, how important is the final margin? If you're going to lose at Duke, does it matter if you lose by 10 or 26?
Well, I think the final margin isn't nearly as important as watching this game and seeing if they're competing or not. You know, Duke at Cameron, they could shoot lights out. There are nights when you can play the best defense, execute as well as you possibly can, and they will shoot you out of this place. But it's whether or not Miami is competing. If I'm a member of the committee, I want to make sure that this is a team that's going to continually give something, so that on a night when maybe they're shooting better, that they would be competitive. And right now, you know, I think there have been spurts, but I'm not so sure. And going back to those 5 teams, Mike, you look at all of them. Only one team has 17 wins. You know, we're forgetting about total wins. Virginia Tech might go 7 and 9 in the ACC, but with only 15 wins going into the conference tournament.
Well, normally I would agree with you, but look at how good the conference has been this year. I mean, this has been unbelievable.
That's not about the conference. The 7 and 9 is about the conference. The 16 wins is about the non-conference schedule. And yes, a lot of these teams have played quality opponents, but you got to win some of those games. I don't know, 16 wins, that somebody's going to come out with 16 wins in the regular season and still get to the tournament. But, you know, 14 wins, 15 wins, I'm still not sure that that's enough. You still got to do some damage in the conference tournament.
Well, I don't want to be part of that selection process. That job's too hard.
And you're going to get arguments either way, but you're going to get more with the 7 and 9 teams. For instance, you know, if Maryland gets taken, NC State is going to say, why not us? We beat them twice. You know, there's going to be some other arguments along the same type of logic. That shouldn't be the case, but, you know, superficially, they're legitimate arguments.
75-49 as we approach the 5-minute mark. Ewing cut off at the baseline. Gets it out to Melchione. Now Reddick again downtown. Rims out.
It's a shooting drill now.
Well, you almost expect him to make every one of them, no matter what the distance, no matter what the situation. He's just that good a shooter.
And again, speaking of good shooters, I've seen Robert Hyde. I saw him in the Big East. He's a scorer, and I'm just amazed at how far off he's been with that jump shot. Again, another one that he missed badly, no one around him.
Len, he's had 4 or 5 that were fortunate to touch the rim. And you're right, we've seen him earlier this year. Much better shooter than that. Sheldon Williams down with 14 with 77-49 for a Duke team that averages 80.5 points a game. That's 8th in the country.
Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Making some noise, and that would be another argument. But again, with only 14 wins and the potential of finishing the regular season with 15 wins, I still think they have a little more work to do.
Diaz blocked from behind. Shavlik Randolph got a hand on it, and then last touched by Miami.
Well, Diaz, obviously, he looks like he took off one step too soon because he never really got that. As great elevation as he has, never really got it above the rim.
And Shavlik Randolph, that was not your typical from behind block. But Shavlik Randolph may be the best player in the country blocking shots as the secondary defender, coming over and getting somebody from behind. He's just brilliant at it. Diaz has only hit 5 out of 15 shots. Ewing too strong on another one. And number 51, Patrick Johnson, is in the ball game for the Blue Devils. And Johnson is going to pick up a foul. Got a timeout, 3:51 to go in the ball game. 77-49. Coasting with 77-49 lead over the Hurricanes of Miami. Duke is going to finish the season at 22-4, headed into the ACC tournament. It will be their 11th victory in the ACC, and no team has dominated this conference like the Blue Devils have in recent years. There's been a marvelous run by Mike Krzyzewski and his coaching staff.
Oh, it's all about the program. I mean, every year you see the team out on the floor and you see the same system. Begins with tough defense, the ability to move the ball, to get it to open shooters. You know, toughness on the glass. That's continuity. And JJ's still in the game, right?
And still open and still making them. J.J. Redick with 29 points.
That smells like making sure you get the scoring title.
Yes, sir.
In this conference.
It does. I'll tell you one other thing it starts with is Diaz tries to hit from the baseline and does. It starts with quality people, because when things go bad, quality people hang with you. So you can go through a losing streak. You're not going to lose the team, where other places you may have some outstanding athletes, but they're not as good at kids, and they'll bail on you in a hurry. And I think a lot of coaches are finding that out. Even a lot of coaches in the pros think character now is as important as talent.
Especially when talent levels are so close, as we look at Reggie Love get some love.
Yeah.
For the years he spent here as a senior, going out. Very well respected by his teammates. But I agree with you, and it's funny because that's the discussion I had with Johnny Dawkins Steve Wojciechowski before the game. I congratulated him on the fact that they were able to make adjustments, keep these guys together.
Right.
And it is about the character players. You may not get the absolute maximum talented guys, but you don't need it. You can have guys who are a little less talented but are strong on character because of that very reason.
Shooting the rock brought to you by Rock Green Light, and 38.6% for Duke this year in three-pointers. That's third in the ACC. Tonight, 14 out of 33. Reddick was shooting 50%. Just absolutely brilliant. You know, the other thing, we're talking about character and effort. Guys that just keep fighting. You can't tell me that Steve Wojciechowski was one of the most talented players you ever saw, because he wasn't. But he got everything out of his talent that anybody could possibly ask. He played as hard as anybody I have ever seen every minute that he was on the court.
Take a look at Daniel Ewing right now, and this is an emotional moment. You don't even have to guess who that was.
14 points for Daniel Ewing, 10 assists, his first career double-double. He does it on senior night. What a way to go out at home.
Well, I've seen a couple of guys. Hakeem Warwick from Syracuse at his career high, 36 or 38 points last Saturday.
Isn't that great?
On senior day. I mean, it is tremendous. The emotion really pushes you.
Yeah.
It takes you beyond heights that you haven't visited. But going back to your point about Wojo, absolutely. And the thing about it is that point of character is commitment.
Yep.
And that's what Wojo had. That's what allowed him to go in that gym and be that gym rat and practice and work and then scrap and scrap.
I mean, I admired him more than a lot of guys who were far more physically gifted and went on to great pro careers, because he got everything out of his ability that he possibly could. If there was ever an overachiever in the Atlantic Coast Conference, it was him.
They had a few of them come through this program.
Yes, they did.
But he is supposed to be.
But those are the guys that hang with you in the tough times. They don't go away. Mike Krzyzewski has cleared his bench. Patrick Davidson, number 41, is in for the first time. And McClure handling the ball there with 1:56 to go.
And if you take a look at Miami, they pretty much got most of their starters in the game. And as I mentioned before, this is to make sure he gets guys and keeps them sharp, gets some execution.
One other thing I wanted to ask you about, Len, while we still have the chance, is going into Sunday's game, Duke at North Carolina. Should Duke win that game, they would still have an outside chance at getting a #1 seed in the NCAA tournament. You could conceivably have North Carolina, Wake Forest, and Duke, the top 3 teams in the ACC, competing for 3 of the 4 seeds in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree with you. I think Duke would have to win that game and maybe do a little bit more, but at the end of the day, there is that 4th spot that's up for grabs. Right now, I think Kentucky has a strong argument for it, but you never know.
Minute 39 to go in this one. Miami is going to finish at 16-11. 7-9 in the ACC, and Frank Haith told us before the game he didn't think this would be a disqualifier for his team, but he thought they might have to go to D.C. in the ACC tournament and win a ball game there, maybe 2. And he did mention 17 games was what he'd like to see on at least that on his winning legend.
Right, and I agree, and I mentioned it before. 16 wins at 17-9, you still got some work to do. It's not a total disqualifier unless you continue that log jam at 7-9, and then they've got to do more digging, and it becomes even more subjective because a lot of these teams have beaten the other teams they're competing against for that spot. Or 2.
Randolph double teamed inside, and here comes Height the other way for Miami. And Height now has 17 points. And all Duke is really interested in is running out the rest of the clock. Well, Len, we've had a chance to work together a lot this year. It's been a lot of fun for me. It's always a pleasure to be around you.
Well, same here. And, you know, we have seen some games, and we've seen some games.
That's right. Well, it should be an interesting tournament. I hope you'll all tune in and watch with us.
Well, I'll be checking you and Dick out as they move down to the critical time in the ACC tournament.
Our Avis player of the game, J.J. Redick, and why not? 29 points, 6 out of 12 from long range, and a couple of those were really from long range. And you talk about somebody who has improved his game. In the last couple of years, this guy has turned himself from a shooter into a complete player.
I'll tell you what, you saw Avis player of the game. I think it's a good bet. You might be able to X out game and put year.
Yeah.
As he is, if not the leading candidate, one of a very, very short list.
Well, he's the best free throw shooter that ever lived in the history of the NCAA for his career. He is the leading scorer in the ACC. You don't get too many guys who average over 20 points a game in this conference. And he is averaging 22.5 coming in. And he really gets it from the opposing teams. 6th in the NCAA, in fact, at 22.5. 3rd in the NCAA this season with his free throw percentage. But he is first for his career, and first for his career by a wide margin. Nobody has ever shot free throws as well as J.J. Redick. And that'll do it. Duke has won its 22nd game of the year in 26 tries, 83-59 over Miami. Another impressive performance by the Blue Devils. And Redick, the star of the game, and comes through with another brilliant shooting performance on senior night. The final score, 83-59. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For Lynn Moore and our entire crew, this is Mike Patrick. Thanks for watching, everybody. Now back to Reese Davis and Doug Gottlieb.